Hey everybody, my name is Anna from astralladytarot. I talk about tarot and all things related. Thank you for being here. I hope you are all well. This is all things related, right? I might talk about tarot in this video, but definitely other stuff in my practice as well. We're talking spiritual practice. Now, don't be fooled by that statue of Mary. It's just because I like it. I don't actually use it in my practice. Candy Soil in Soil inspired me to make this video to still participate in the tag because I wanted to participate, but whilst knowing I'm not a traditional, right? So I'm using the hashtag tradwitchtag, but also untradwitchtag, which is much more fitting for what my practice looks like and what I actually do on a daily basis. The reason Candy inspired me is she started talking about imposter syndrome, which is something I'm familiar with. Most of us are. It's not something strange. And regarding our practice, it's very common. It's okay to not do something every day. It's okay to not have enough altar time. Years ago, Kellyanne Maddox, one of my favorites on YouTube, actually said in a video that the main thing she did at her altar was nothing. Right before diving into the tag, into all the questions and answering them, but untrad witch like, I want to make that point that it's actually important to do nothing, not just go to this altar space or to do this practice when you need something. It's actually quite valuable to just be present, to just be there, surround yourself with these things, or have this energy in mind, to actually also give and not just try to take. So I am taking the exact same questions from the tradwitchtag. The first question is, what kind of craft do you practice? And then we got all those different options. Now, I can tell you there's actually quite a lot of folk magic in what I do. This is because folk magic is just absolutely badass. It's very earthy. I like that. Combining that with my own thing, and I don't have a word for that. I think it's very close to chaos magic, if you want to put a term on it. It's chaos magic combined with folk magic. And that might be what? But actually, I feel folk magic is very close to chaos magic. You know, chaos magic sounds like it's whatever and there are no rules. But the thing is, there are definitely things to practice and be dedicated to. So dedication is a really big thing. It's like a muscle we actually train on a daily basis to make our spirit, to make our energy what we want it to be, where we want it to go. There's a clear goal in mind. Now, the main thing that I like about this approach, which I cannot really explain, is because I know my why. Why do I have a spiritual practice? Why am I interested in magic? Why do I do intention work? It doesn't have really a name for what I do. I take a little bit from everything that makes sense and I also experiment. But most things just come out of my own head and hands and mouth. When I'm in sacred space, I just let myself be guided, and I have sort of a plan of what I am going to do because I actually do something. You know, some practitioners are very much in their heads, and visualization is absolutely a big part of what I do and what I think makes us reach our goals, right? Attain our goals. But I am a firm believer of whatever I do here physically, actively really do with my hands and with my words and with my actions in this earthly realm and or in sacred space, this is what I send out into the universe. So it's very, very much rooted and will probably always be the as above, so below principle. Because whatever happens there, we find here on earth, and whatever I do here and express here and put out here is reflected above, which means it can only come back to me, maybe not in the way I expected, but it's a energy push and pull. So what kind of craft do I practice? It's a little bit of chaos magic, or a lot. It's a little bit of folk magic. Most of all, though, which seems like the stupidest answer, but it's just what I can answer as the untraditional one, is my own. Now, before I end this question, I want to explain this a little bit better. I practice my own craft. The reason is because I know my why. I know my reason. The reason I have a spiritual practice is, of course, people who are interested in this stuff, people who are attracted to this type of stuff, witchcraft, occult, tarot, divination, whatever you want to call it. It's a magical place, just Sabrina Teenage Witch world, and we're all just living in it. No, but it's because I need to be more self-assured. I need to express myself, literally express myself with words better, more often. Take away some filters. I need that overall strength. And expression is a very big thing because, well, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I know that this is what I need. It's years of conditioning, and it's also years of paying way too much attention to what I do say. Once you pay too much attention to what you're supposed to say, pretty soon you're not going to say anything at all. So yeah, that happened, and I can tell you those types of psychological things that just happen in our lives, right? That just become shadows, and we are shattered, and all those negative energies are stuck to us. We're trying to free ourselves from it and understand them as shadows, bring them back to the light. It's very much tarot Jungian talk, which tarot tubers are familiar with. It actually becomes physical. So I can tell you my weakest point in the body is is my throat. I always have, well, almost always have pain in the throat, or something is irritating it. I just have so many issues there. I'm telling you, every one of my illnesses starts with, I have a little tickle in my throat. Actually, years ago, I had this thyroid problem that it was working too fast. Just, it doesn't end. And I know that this is also rooted in this particular problem with self-expression. And as a 35-year-old adult, I am still working on this. And the magic, the work, the craft is helping me achieve that. Now, that is by now, with these years of practice and actually being quite deep into it, has become just one of the things that I focus on. I feel I did find my voice, in a sense, without it hurting. Of course, it's an ongoing process. It's not like one day you reach your goal and that's it, you're done, you're finished. What are you going to do then? No, it takes constant work. Second question, what paradigm, faith, or philosophy informs your craft? I took this idea from chaos magic, a chaos magic principle, which is once you have beliefs, it's almost as if they're supposed to be set in stone, or beliefs actually, the meaning is it's set in stone. It's done, finished, which is not what I wish to achieve by doing this. So this might be an untraditional thing, but I like to have a groundwork of things I can get back to that work for me and by experimenting. But at the same time, I don't want to be bound to anything. So I allow myself to change my mind, not just in the craft, but in daily life, things, politics. What else is there? Just any type of notion, really, preconceived or not. And this is very important to me. This is actually might just be, that is my paradigm. That is my faith. Which again, it's a paradox. It's a contradiction in itself. Maybe not a paradox, but well, actually, I must say also my craft is very paradoxical. But look, the thing is, I don't want to be tied to any set of beliefs because I'm actually here to explore, to enjoy myself, to see what works and what doesn't. And then whatever I find it with this awareness that it might not be forever and I have to be okay with that. That idea, meaning there are no beliefs, just ideas, and you can change your mind and you can have a change of heart whenever you feel like it, creates a freedom, which is my ultimate goal. So yeah, animism makes sense. What else is there? Yeah, sort of the fact that I have had experiences that confirmed for me in a sense that we are all connected, that there is this big cosmic net of stars. And I do believe in souls, for instance. And actually, I believe that everyone's soul is the same soul, even though we don't want to see it. A very big thing in my ideas is going towards the uncomfortable, going towards the darker stuff, going towards the things we actually rather not pay attention to. Of course, there's a lot of beautiful things in the practice too, but I really, really work hard to not shy away from the more difficult things. Question 3: what culture is your practice rooted in? The culture of rock and roll. There is a little bit of Corsican, which is very specific, but Corsican folk magic. This is because I am half French from Corsica. The rest is, as I said, a little bit of everything, so that can be considered eclectic, but again, it's actually much more chaos magic. I just do what works and not afraid to try things out. And yes, my deity work. Question 4: how long have you been practicing and how did it all start? Look, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 87. And in the 90s, there were witches everywhere. And I was so happy because this was definitely something I was extremely interested in. And you could find velvet clothes in every store. I was a weird kid who turned into a weird adult, and I always had an active imagination. So I think my first spell was before the age of 10. Definitely. I know around that age is when I started playing tarot with weird and mystical, mysterious looking playing cards that I had in our attic in the house I grew up in. So all of that energy was definitely present. Now, I remember doing spells as a teen also, including some baneful magic, which I believe I wouldn't do today anymore, but again, it's not a belief, is it? It's just an idea, and I might change my mind, but we'll see. For now, I feel in my core it's not right to send out negative things because I am trying to make it a better place, believe it or not, with all the darkness and the weird stuff. We are good people. I also know that at a certain point I was so done with all this stuff. All the magic books and the altar and the candles and everything that really took up time, took up energy. And at a certain age, I think it was definitely the teenage years, I was done with it. I thought, okay, well, this is no longer for me. This is for kids. I had linked it to imagination, playing alone, which, yeah, it is linked to, but it's also for adults, right? I mean, seriously. And so I stopped using the tarot, I stopped doing all this stuff and came back to it years later. I cannot tell you when exactly it came back into my life, because even from the beginning of this channel till now, there has been a really big change and a build up even to, well, what the practice is today. And I think this is just an ongoing process. Question 5. What books or resources have you first started with? Would you recommend them to others today? I'm actually going to refer you to another video of mine because I think I explained it well. I would actually recommend most of the books I read as a child because I think I was lucky. They're actually pretty good, and they are, still in the 90s understanding of witchcraft, that they use witchcraft and Wicca interchangeably, which of course is different. We know that now, but they also explain things like this is the way you set up an altar. I realize now most magic or even Wicca books give the reader a little bit more freedom there. They just give suggestions and they don't actually flat out tell you how to do it. Whereas the books I started with told me I needed 4 candles for the elements, and it needed to be the boring colors: yellow, red, blue, and green. You know what I mean? And then also the rituals needed to be very specific of what type of herb you need, and this still very much exists today, but whenever I read something nowadays, I just read it as a suggestion anyway. So I can recommend this book. That was definitely one of my first craft books. Question 6. How has your practice and/or paradigm changed over the years, if at all? I think I already answered that, didn't I? Definitely changed over the years. Is there something that didn't change? Maybe just the use of my overly active imagination. It's actually a helpful tool to have an active imagination in this type of stuff, because it means you can have visions, by lack of a better term. It means you can find yourself in an astral realm within the blink of an eye. It's really lots of fun. Question 7. What does your daily regular practice look like? What do you do on a regular basis? My daily practice doesn't really look magical at all, except for wearing certain type of jewelry, reading the tarot for myself. I do that almost every day. And the thing I do every day, because I set my mind on this, and it's like a dedication to myself and really making a certain working still active, because I feel I need a certain type of protection. I've been doing this, I don't even know how many months at this point, probably already half a year. I started doing this certain type of protection sigil around myself every day, which is, for me, I'd say, combining this craft with the body, because I actually move and I actually make these movements every single day, and it's almost like a yoga exercise or a dance exercise. If you don't know yet, I'm a dancer. So yeah, the expression never came through words, but it came through the body, right? Through movement. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to use this particular sigil that I had made for myself and take it out from the 2D paper and actually make it at least 3D in and around my body. And by doing these movements every day using a certain tool, if I have it at hand, otherwise I will use a piece of jewelry or a little stone that actually is dedicated to that particular working as well. I do these movements and bring in that awareness of the protection for me that day. This is just what my daily practice looks like right now. I haven't actually talked about it yet, not even on Patreon, which is where I share this side of my practice, because YouTube usually is much more tarot related. But yeah, I always do it after a shower, because first you cleanse, right? I actually see now there is a little bit of traditional ideas there anyway, just things that make sense. Just things that make sense. I don't want to or feel like I can belong to any traditional practice. It just feels like I do what makes sense or take what makes sense, which I know I'm not alone in this, right? We really do build our own practice. So after the shower, before I leave the house, right? In that window of time is where I do this very quick. Doesn't even take me a minute. Um, Intention setting. Yeah. This reminds me of another why. So as you may notice, as the untraditional tag, I kind of flow through the questions and other things come up. So maybe if more people want to join uh, this particular tag, the offshoot of the tradwitchtag, which was very interesting already in itself, I realize why I don't feel I belong or can belong is because I need to actively build my own practice. I know I'm not alone in this. Again, I have been told what to do for a tad too long in my life. So this is my way of finally rebelling, because guess what? That rebel archetype, that rebel was always inside of me, but it never actually got the chance to come out fully. And it's kind of coming out now in it. That is what my daily practice looks like right now. And I do follow the moon, but I also don't put pressure on it too much because sometimes the life happens. Question 8. Are there aspects of your craft that you need to keep secret? In your opinion, is secrecy important in witchcraft? Yes, I was going to say about that last thing that I am very private about this, and this is because I have experienced the loss of energy, the loss of an intention working by saying it out loud, and actually not just with the craft, but with earthly things as well, which is such a shame. I definitely feel this type of workings are communication, right, between you and the divine or between you and the universe, whatever you feel is true, because you actually do have to know it in some sense. You have to trust it, that this is personal and this is private and you can share about it, but maybe in hindsight, or maybe by not sharing any details. Or, you see, I definitely understand this idea of keeping it a secret, of this is already expressed in a magical way, so don't spoil it by not being able to keep your mouth shut about it. Because that energy you keep within yourself so that it can find its way out there. It's not supposed to be said out loud because that is energy lost. Now, there is something that deviates from this. I do, for instance, post photos of details on my altar, or of tarot cards with or without words, in the caption, in order to bring a certain spell out into the universe, because I feel if more people see it, and even with every like, even though I don't live for likes, right? But even with every like, it gains momentum. And so sometimes I do use very modern things like social media, which is a communication platform, of course, to aid my workings. There's another thing I want to add to that is I don't feel I need to keep anything a secret necessarily, but I am just careful with the career I chose, with the things I share. I don't feel I should be very careful or ashamed or anything, scared with anything, because I am mostly my own boss. That's right. But yeah, some things I actually want to open up about, but not for anyone to see. And so this is the main reason I actually also have a Patreon. I'm not trying to get you to become a patron of mine, but that is the platform where I share my very special magical things. That's special to me. Number 9, what are some of your favorite tools that you use regularly? Honey, the tarot. of course. The tarot is always going to be number one. You can do anything with the tarot deck. This is my Crow's Magic Tarot. I love it. Another tool I adore is a certain type of rosary that I made myself. This is another thing that I never forgot from that very first witchcraft book that I read. Homemade tools are so potent. And that book suggested that homemade tools were better than tools that you bought. Now, I don't really agree, except that I do. Yeah, a certain type of rosary. Love that. And then there's also my thrifted for 50 cents wand slash athame, what I use on a daily basis. I use it pretty much for everything. And I still am not sure what it is, but I do know that it was handmade at some point and used as a tool. So it isn't inherently anything magical, except that when I picked this up, held it in my hands, it fit perfectly. This is just love, absolute love. So definitely one of my favorite tools. I absolutely adore it. And yes, it acts as a wand and an athame, and I just do whatever the hell I want with it. So that's great. Another tool is my puppet, and therefore also chalk. I do quite a lot of things with chalk. Also my journal, my tarot journal is also my magic journal. I don't do separate journals. I just start one, fill it up, finish it, start the next one. So everything is a big mess in one journal. But I definitely feel journal is a great way to, well, of course, log things and to look back to see what worked and how it worked out, etc. Is that considered a tool? Little thing about this is maybe unpopular opinion, but I have trouble working with magical tools that look like magical tools. I'm not saying this correctly, that are marketed as magical tools. For instance, I actually have a cauldron. I have been wanting to switch to something bigger and more organic for a while now. I still haven't found the right thing because I'm not prepared to make any concessions on this. I have an idea in mind and I'm gonna manifest it. But I do have a little cauldron, but it doesn't have the triple moon goddess sign on it. I don't actually think I would enjoy working with that as much as I do working with what I have now or what I hopefully will have in the future. So this is what I mean, just go thrifting. Maybe I'm a thrift witch. There you go. Just go thrifting. I have a love for old things, secondhand objects, where I'm a part of its life instead of the other way around. That's a whole energy in itself. I mean, I've made some videos on alter space and what it looks like. I just really followed my guts there and didn't follow rules, really. Last question, 10. What books or resources would you recommend to newbie witches interested in your kind of practice? I feel like I keep recommending him all the time, but honestly, I really do believe that if you follow Aidan Wachter's work, you will be an accomplished magical practitioner. Do I even have anything else? Okay, I do have something else. The biggest thing, the tarot. Get yourself a tarot deck. 78 cards, and it's the book of life. Every possible thing that can happen and does happen in a human lifetime is in the tarot and beyond. But you know, everything that exists is in the tarot. It's the book of life. So get yourself a tarot deck. It's going to rock your world and change your mind, I think, on a lot of things. I know it did for me. And actually, this advice definitely does come with a disclaimer, because whatever resources or whatever books, whatever people recommend, right, including myself right now, check in with yourself. See if it makes sense. See if this is true for you. See if this is something that you want to do. Don't take anything as gospel. If you want to follow some rules, only do so because you actually see them being true, being real, or you feel that they're true. You are aware of their presence in the world. When you find, for instance, a tarot book, no matter how amazing it is, for instance, Book of Thoth by Aleister Crowley, very controversial man anyway, don't take it as full on truth anyway. Take it as poetry, madness, inspiration, motivation, and yes, let it open your eyes, let it shock you in a sense, but also see the beauty in it. And I'd say don't get swept away by trying to find only one truth, because you're gonna change your mind at some point. That's what I think. If you don't, that might become a shadow because you're still wrapped up in something that you actually no longer believe in. See what I mean? And then another thing, a lot of those, big names, however much I respect their work and what they gave us, for instance, the Crowley guy, Uncle Al, he definitely made his own type of almost organized religion. We're talking witchcraft here, so you can be a part of any religion if that is right for you, obviously. If this is not what you're about, and you know this, like I know this, then just be aware of that, because Book of Thoth is about the tarot, but also is introducing Thelema, which is kind of like a religion. So make that distinction, I'd say, between learning the tarot and trying to understand the all, starting with yourself, and joining a certain set of beliefs and becoming a follower. Do you want to become a follower, or do you want to be the leader? And that doesn't mean that you need followers. I'm a leader and I don't have followers. That doesn't make me any less of a leader. So that is my why. I need to be the leader of my own life and my own existence, my own practice. It starts with magic. It starts with me. It starts with energy. That is an honest confession there. This was my tradwitchtag and untradwitchtag. Seriously, join whatever hashtag you wish, but I certainly hope to see more videos, because the videos I saw, amazing and much more eloquent than I am. Just so you know, I'm half Dutch, half French, and English is not my mother tongue at all. It's just something I learned, I picked up on. Anyway, I want to thank you again for being here. Subscribe if you want to see more of me, and most of all, tarot content, because I am a tarot nerd. And let me know what you thought of this video. This feels very right to do, to post, but also I'm telling you, it's out of my comfort zone. So I want to say thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Much love.